Hello people, I am Jaby Koay. This is my guest Joli Robinson. We have ingested quite a bit of alcohol because we were watching a series together and recording our reaction to that series. We're just having fun, and Joli protested, I can't do my reaction.
I don't want to do the parched reaction, slightly buzz, or the review buzz.
Right, but I insist that we do our review to Parched buzzed.
All together.
It's also important to bear in mind that Joli only drinks 3 times a year. The third time is always with Jaby and Achara. So, here we go. We're gonna do our review of Parched. Before we really dive into it, as a spoiler-free aspect to this review, I would say just, if you can, watch this movie right away.
It was fantastic.
I mean,
I really loved it, especially as a female.
Yeah, it's got deep messages, and it's very touching, even as just if you remove the aspect of it being a female empowerment film, even if you just take that away from it, it's still just a good story. It's still just a good movie. And I would strongly recommend it for the acting, the writing, the music, all around.
The visuals, too. I mean, the visuals are great.
It's just a well-produced film, and I like it tremendously. So now we're gonna get into spoilers. So for those of you who haven't seen the film, you should pause this, go watch it, and come back, and then watch this. Yes.
It's fair warning.
Okay, so I'm gonna allow you to go first. I'm gonna defer to you because you're a woman, and this is largely like a movie about women and what they go through, and kind of rising against the challenges of being a woman. So
I'm gonna focus on the woman aspect of it and how I feel I relate to it, but also, you know, as Jaby mentioned before, anyone can really relate to this because it's kind of like everyone kind of defaults to cultural norms or even norms, you know, put on you by your family. So this is really like a tale of, are you gonna be you at the end of the day? You know, you have this one life, and are you gonna struggle to make someone else happy at the expense of finding your own happiness? And so this whole story is beautiful to watch because you really do see all of these characters struggle with these self-imposed kind of prisons that we come up with, thinking that it's the right thing to do.
Piggybacking on what you said, focusing on like kind of the universal message of the film, we do get caught up in our efforts to please everybody else. That is relatable to everyone, including myself. I used to be that guy, and I notice it a lot in people around me, and I try to, you know, explain to them, you have to make sure you're happy with you before anything else, because when you're concentrated on making everyone else happy, you lose yourself in the process, and you realize that you're not happy at all.
So what's the point? Yeah, exactly.
What's the point of it all when all you're doing is pleasing everyone else, and it's like your heart is not being fulfilled. When your foremost concern is everyone else's happiness, you end up losing out. And it's like, there's give and take. You can't be outright just selfish and just making sure you're happy all the time. But you do have to make yourself a priority. We get caught up in trying to please our parents, trying to please our family members, trying to please our friends, doing things because our friends think it's cool, and then you suffer peer pressure. You suffer family pressure to get married by a certain age and have a baby by a certain age, like all these things. And it's like, well, do you even fucking want that?
It's true.
And the movie asks you that question. Like, do you really want to be part of this? And what drew me into it in the trailer was just the idea that these women are in this kind of impossible situation and somehow and realize, you know what, fuck it, I'm out. And they escape together. Again, we're getting into spoiler territory here. Obviously, that doesn't come till the very end of the movie, that escape, but it does happen, and I'm very happy for the characters when it does happen. Not all the male characters are bad, right? Half of them are shitty, half of them are cool, including the actor who plays Mukesh in Permanent Roommates. I really liked his performance. In fact, I liked everyone's performance. The fact that I was able to get mad at people in the movie means that the performances were just spot on, like down pat. And the writing was really good. Everything was very believable. Even the intimate moments felt very real. Even things I didn't agree on, it's like, well, I can see why that character did that. Talking about the main female characters. Like when she went off and made a baby with that strange guy, it's like...
She's almost doing it to also make him happy in a sense. It's something she wants, but she's also doing it for her husband in a weird way. It's like, in a sense, betraying him, but it's also kind of giving him what she thought he really wanted, so...
Right. This really opened my eyes to... As a dude, as a guy, I don't have to deal with a lot of shit women have to deal with, and it's like, I do my best to be as respectful as possible towards women because of these issues going on, and it's like, well, just because you should, but also these issues kind of remind me of like what women have to deal with. It's just super shitty, especially in these areas where tradition still has a strong chokehold on certain areas of the world, and it's really unfortunate that women have to deal with that stuff. And I'm hoping more movies like this come out that kind of go, look, this is not fair at all. There was this moment in the film where they're all hanging out, the 4 women are hanging out. The mom goes, you lure all the husbands to your strip club, and she's like, is it really my fault?
Am I really the one doing it, or am I just like part of what's actually happening?
Right.
Yeah. Well, the guys, because the guys are really setting it up, you know?
Well, the thing is, her point was, the guys are making that choice of their own volition, of their own free will. It's the guys who decided to go there. It doesn't matter what's out there. Men are making their own choice. You can't then assign women the blame for luring them in. That's bullshit. The main character, Rani, I really felt like bad for her, and I liked that she was trying to fight back, and like every time she came to her friends with bruises, I was just like, it was so painful
to watch. At some points in the movie, you see that the only safe haven that these girls have are with each other.
Yes.
And sometimes the intimacy crosses a line. Like we saw that one scene that we were like, oh my god, are they gonna like kiss? Like what is gonna happen?
Right.
It was so real though. It didn't feel scandalous at all.
It didn't feel contrived either.
It just felt like these are two people that are so parched, right? Here comes back the message with the whole title of the story. They're so thirsty for some kind of intimacy and real connection and love and nurturing
and comfort.
It's unfortunate to see, it's redemptive at the end of the story, but it's unfortunate to see for so much of the story they're lost in trying to please all these people that don't really accept them and don't really love them. But at the end, and they're just kind of like, why are we wasting our time?
Right.
Why don't we just go together with the people that really love us and find something new?
Yeah, and it seems like pretty much everyone had a story arc in that movie.
Yeah.
Just from a writer's perspective as well. It's like, it was really well crafted. The most important thing is that how something starts needs to be completely different at the end, and it was very different at the end. Where the characters begin and end up is completely new and fresh, and you feel happy for them, but not in a romantic comedy kind of way, not in a cliche manner whatsoever. It felt like you were saying very real, and I appreciate that about this movie. It really didn't pull its punches at all. Anytime it needed to show you something to make a point, it did. I felt so bad when they were like, a woman who reads makes a bad housewife. That was just like that, and the young boy, the son, who was beating his wife and going out with the hookers and whatnot, and the mom was just trying to do her best to keep up with it. It's like,
well, you saw her like struggle with that too, because you could tell how much it hurt her, but she went against her instincts because it's a cultural norm, and we saw flashbacks where it happened to her too.
Sure.
So in this way, she had to minimize it because no one's standing up for her, teaching her that this is not okay. Like, you don't have to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So you could see her struggle, and thank God at the end, like, oh my God, she let her daughter-in-law go off with the guy that she was actually in love with. That made me feel so good, because it was almost like, here's a person staying true to what they really feel in their gut is the right thing to do.
It's funny you should mention that. I remember when we were watching the film, you were concerned that you were like, man, this movie's taking a shit on men, and it's like, and then
and you're right, and you had to remind me that there were actually some male characters that were really like heroic in some senses, and in a sweet way, not in a kind of like, hey, like Superman type of way.
Right. Well, they weren't just
working hard. They were actually dedicated.
They weren't just coming in and saving the day. And this movie fulfills the Bechdel tests by far. You know the Bechdel test? The Bechdel test is where you have scenes with women acting with other women.
Oh, that aren't conversations about men?
Yeah, exactly.
I do know,
They managed to fulfill that. And the redeeming characters were like, the actor who plays Mikesh in Permanent Roommates was a redeeming character. The boy who comes at the end to save the woman with the short, he's in love with the boyfriend. There are a number of redeeming male characters that kind of illustrate to you, maybe that's what you should be doing as a dude.
Yeah, maybe like the protection mode, kind of like, how do you channel the male strength of being like a protector and a guardian, but in a good way? Because I feel like a lot of times it gets skewed, because it just kind of translates to like, oh, if you're tough and you beat people up, that means you're a protector or strong or something. But I think, like, we're in 2016. It should be a much more evolved definition. And you see these guys that are almost like very gentle. It's like the guy that got her pregnant was, God, just honored her so much.
He was respectful of her.
Like, so nice.
Yeah. I love this movie. I think it was really great, and I really appreciate Ajay Devgan taking the effort to produce this film because it's so powerful and it's so important. We need more stories like this that talk about this message, because it's like it's worse to just kind of dust it under the rug and not discuss it and not address it, because by putting it out there, it makes it more likely that people will then converse about it and maybe make decisions to behave differently in their own circles, you know, to help. To help mitigate the issues that are revealed in a film like this.
So I read this quote. It was like probably a couple days after we watched the movie. A quote from, I believe she's Prime Minister of Burma right now, Aung San Suu Kyi. There was a quote that I was just kind of like, oh my God, that was like the heart of the message of Parched. But it goes, I'm going to read this off because obviously I don't have it memorized. Human beings want to be free, and however long they may agree to stay locked up, to stay oppressed, there will come a time when they say, that's it. Suddenly they find themselves doing something that they never would have thought they would be doing, simply because of the human instinct that makes them turn their face towards freedom. Like, do you see what we were saying before? It's not just a story for females, it's a story for everyone.
For human beings.
Yeah.
Eventually you reach the point of like, you've reached your capacity to take the bullshit, and you say, that's it, enough's enough.
I have to choose
done.
Differently. But, you remember, it was like the woman who actually got pregnant. Remember, and I knew that scene where she was kind of like, hey, she was almost like so forgiving of her husband who was like beating her all the time. She finally got pregnant, and she thought it was going to be the happiest news. It was like the biggest gift to tell him that she was finally like had child.
Right.
And I told you, I was like, this is not going to end well. Like, you should not do that. He is not going to accept this. This is, you're going to get your ass beat.
Right.
And it ended up happening, and it was just kind of a thing that you could clearly tell that she loved him.
Right.
But she reached a threshold finally, where it's kind of like, even if I love you, I cannot accept this type of behavior.
I was very happy with the result of that scene. Sadistically.
Yeah, I know, you're like, leave him, don't save him.
Just let him go. Let it be. Let it be. It'll all be over soon. They were all like together at the end, and they went on their adventure. It was great. It was a great final line in the movie. Like, wherever my heart takes me, I think is what it said. Like, that's really beautiful. So, thanks you guys so much for hanging out with us. Please check out Joli Robinson on the social media. Subscribe to the channel. Check out other reactions, reviews, video game related videos, and there's a playlist in the description below of Jaby Koay's short films. Be sure to check that out if you haven't already. I am Jaby Koay. This is
Joli Robinson.
Peace out.